Today we open the chip that runs your programs. We look at one core and we follow one instruction round it. You do not need any background. Inside the CPU. We have said the CPU runs your programs and left it at that. Now we open it. First question. What is one instruction? A program is a long list of them, but we never said what a single one actually is. Second question. How does a core know what to do with it? Nobody tells the chip what the bits mean. It has to work that out from the bits themselves. Third question. How does it get through billions of them a second? That number is hard to picture, and there is a reason it is possible. We answer all three the same way. We open one core, and we follow one instruction through it. This is where we are. A whole computer with the lid off, every part plugged into one board. Everything we need, we build up again from this picture. This square is the CPU. It is the part that actually runs your programs, and it is the one we are opening today. One thing to notice before we zoom in. When you start a program, it gets loaded out here into main memory in pieces as they are needed. It does not live inside the CPU. So the chip has to keep pulling in the piece it needs, a bit at a time. Remember that because a lot of what is inside exists for that reason. Let's go in. This is the CPU. What you hold in your hand is the package. It is the housing with the metal lid on top and the contacts underneath. Inside the package is a thin square of silicon called the die. The die is the chip itself. Everything from here on is drawn on it. A large part of this die is cores. A core is one worker. It runs instructions, one after another. The rest of the space goes on cache and on the parts that talk to the outside. There are 8 of them here, and they are identical. 8 is a common number in a desktop chip today. This is one of those 8 opened up. It is not a 9th core. The dashed lines say it is the same tile, drawn bigger so we can see inside it. The control unit. It reads each instruction and works out what has to happen. Think of it as the part that gives the orders. The ALU, short for arithmetic logic unit. It does the actual arithmetic, adding, subtracting, comparing 2 numbers. The register file. These are a few named slots that hold the numbers the core is working on right now. There are only a few dozen of them. They are the fastest storage in the whole machine. The ALU reads from them and writes back to them directly. The ALU and the registers have a shared name. Together with the wires between them, they are called the data path. The control unit is the other half. Put the 2 together and you have a processor. The L1 instruction cache. When you start a program, it gets loaded into main memory, out on the board in pieces, as they are needed. This cache holds a copy of the small piece the core is working through right now. The L1 data cache. Same idea for the numbers the program works on. Instructions and data get their own cache because the core wants both at once. Then L2. Bigger, a little slower, and still private to this one core. Nothing so far is shared with the other 7. Then L3. It is bigger again, slower again, and this one is shared. Every core on the die uses the same L3. Our core reaches it through this link. And so do the other 7 through theirs. The memory controller. Main memory is not on this chip. It is on separate sticks plugged into the board, and this is the part that talks to them. And the PCIe root complex. PCIe is the fast link a computer uses to reach the graphics card and the drive, so this is the chip's door out to them. Both this and the memory controller sit at the edge of the die, close to the pins. One more thing about having 8 of these. It means 2 programs can genuinely run at the same moment on different cores instead of taking turns on one. One honest note, a real die has more on it than this. This is the shape of a processor, not a full floor plan of one. This is one instruction. It is the thing a core actually reads and acts on. It is a row of bits. A bit is one digit that is either 0 or 1. On its own, a bit means nothing. What gives it meaning is its position in the row. This group of bits says what to do. Here it says add. Another pattern in the same place would say subtract or compare or load. This group says where the answer should go, slot 1. This group names the first input, slot 2. And this group names the second input, slot 3. Put the 4 groups together, and the row says one plain thing. Add what is in slot 2 to what is in slot 3, and put the answer in slot 1. The slots are the register file, the same one we just saw inside the core. So this instruction does not carry the numbers themselves. It carries the names of the slots they are sitting in. Some instructions do hold a small number directly, but naming slots is how most of the work gets done. One honest note again. Different families of chip lay these groups out differently, and they use different numbers of bits. The idea is always the same. Some bits say what to do, and some say what to do it to. This is the same core again. Same parts, same colors, same sides. It is only drawn as a loop this time so we can follow the path. Instructions like this one make the same trip, and we can split it into 5 steps. We will name each one as we pass it, because we are going to need those 5 names in a minute. One box is new, the program counter. It holds the address of the next instruction, and an address is just a number that says where something lives. We start here. The counter hands that address to the instruction cache. The cache hands back the bits stored at that address. Going and getting the instruction is step 1, and it is called the fetch. The bits go across to the control unit. The control unit reads the groups we just took apart. It sees add. It sees slot 2 and slot 3 going in and slot 1 coming out. Working out what the bits mean is step 2, the decode. It passes those slot names down to the register file. The register file opens the 2 slots and takes out what is in them. Let us say slot 2 holds 7 and slot 3 holds 5. Fetching the inputs is step 3, the read. 7 and 5 travel across to the ALU. The ALU adds them and gets 12. Doing the work is step 4, the execute. Notice how small it is. Everything else on this loop exists to get the right 2 numbers here, and to put the answer somewhere sensible afterwards. 12 comes back on this rail, and it goes into slot 1, which is where the instruction said to put it. Storing the answer is step 5, the write. That is the whole instruction done. Meanwhile, the program counter has already moved on, so the next address is ready and the trip starts again. 5 steps: fetch, decode, read, execute, write. 7 plus 5 in slots 2 and 3 came out as 12 in slot 1. 2 things that trip glossed over. The first is what happens when the cache does not have the instruction, which is always true the first time round. Then the request goes down to L2, and on out to main memory if L2 does not have it either. That is much slower, and it is why the core would rather not do it. So what comes back is not one instruction. A whole block of neighboring bytes is copied in at once. Programs mostly run in a straight line, so the next few instructions arrive in that same block and are already waiting. The second thing, not every instruction is arithmetic. Some of them fetch a number from memory or put one back, and those go out this way instead. The data cache answers if it already holds what was asked for. And if it does not, the same thing happens as before. Down to L2, then further out, each step costing more time than the last. That is one core doing one thing. Now the surprising part. A core does this billions of times a second, and the way it gets there is not by doing each trip faster. This is the same trip again, written as 5 steps in a row. Fetch, decode, read, execute, write. That is one instruction left to write. Along the top are clock ticks. The clock is a steady beat that keeps every part of the core in step, and each of these steps takes 1 tick. So this instruction is finished after 5 ticks. If the core waited for that before starting the next one, it would only finish 1 instruction every 5 ticks. It does not wait. The moment the first instruction leaves the fetch step, that step is free, so the second instruction moves straight into it. The third one follows on the next tick, and the fourth, and the fifth. Each row starts 1 tick after the row above it, because it is waiting for the step in front of it to clear. Now look straight down 1 tick. 5 different instructions are inside the core at the same moment, and every one of them is in a different step. That is where the big numbers come from. Each instruction still takes all 5 steps, but when the work flows nicely, one of them can finish every tick, and there are a few billion ticks every second. Real programs stall sometimes, so it is not always that tidy. That is one core from the outside in. The package is the housing you hold. Inside it is the die, and most of the die is cores. One instruction is a row of bits. Some of those bits say what to do, and some say what to do it to. The control unit reads that row and gives the orders. The ALU does the arithmetic. The registers are the closest storage there is, and the caches keep everything else as near as they can. That last one is worth sitting with. Almost everything inside a core is there to keep numbers close to the part that uses them. Which raises the obvious question. If being close matters this much, how far away is everything else? That is where we go next.